Hey, I am finally getting to doing this video. First off, I would like to say I am not a professional. I am simply forwarding off my information that I've learned from experience, research, understanding for women's pleasure, including my own, for that matter. That's where I'm coming from with this. So, that being said, I would like to tell you a little bit about where I'm coming from and what my past is like in my relationship aspects. So I have known I was gay my entire life. Even when I was 5 or 6, I was making out with girls. I didn't understand what it meant, but I definitely knew that there was something different. But when it came to dating life, I had my first girlfriend when I was 18, and then I had various other experiences, but all monogamy, right? Serial monogamist. And as we know in the queer land, we have a couple of jokes about dating, especially women on women love. And that's the joke, is the U-Haul, right? So in that aspect, our relationships tend to cycle very quickly. And that's been my experience, at least with monogamy, right? So I cheated with every single one of my monogamous partners, with the exception of my ex-wife. And we were together for 8 years. It was not the best situation. And the last 2 years we opened up the marriage. I didn't really participate till the end. And once I did, it just further deteriorated our marriage. It wasn't the reason why our marriage ended, but it was definitely an eye-opener. And after that, I was like, nope, never again. I am not a monogamous person. It is for some people, but not for me. I prefer to just be upfront and honest about the fact that I like sex and I like to please other women, and I don't want to be stifled from doing that anymore. I was stifled from doing it for a very long time. And now I've been open for 3 years. Before I met my wife, I had another 8-year relationship that ended, and I started being a little frisky. It was like my first time to really be frisky. And during that time is when I started experimenting with my body more and figuring out what I could do. And that's when I started figuring out that I could do different things, like how to make myself come internally as well as just clitorally, because most of the time that's all we're taught about. Even though we knew nothing about the clitoris really until fairly recently. But different things, and making myself be able to do those things, and then doing that with other people. And then I was fucking this girl I was seeing with a strap on, and I came while I was fucking her with a strap on, and I'm like, this is all I need. This is what I want. Okay, so maybe you and your partner have decided to open things up, and you're looking for why. Maybe like there's something that you're craving there to open it up in the first place. Maybe you don't know what that is. Some people do. Some people have it down and they know. But exploring your body and exploring your sexuality is definitely a thing that's underrated. And that is what I like to help people do. Because I want to please you, and then on top of that, give you something to take with you out of that experience, whether we have another experience or not, that you can then go on and have amazing sex with other partners as well. At least that's my hope, right? Some definitions that I want to cover quickly. Polyamory is multiple love. It's where you're looking for multiple loving, caring partners. Maybe you live together, all that stuff, right? Non-monogamy, which is kind of more my route, is I'm not looking for that. If it happens, I'm okay with it. Some people aren't looking for that at all. But it just means I'm not monogamous. I don't want to be with only one person. So yeah, that's where I'm coming from. Stone butch is also what I am. Everybody's definition is different, but for me, it's I'm no touch with my genitals, meaning I get sexual pleasure from giving you pleasure. And that's how I get off, literally. And also a service top, and that is where those of you that aren't quite sure what you want can come and get it. And there's a few ways that I'm able to do this. So for me, I found people on several of the dating apps, and in a moment I'll talk more about that, but I'm a very clear communicator, and I ask questions up front. Hard no's, hard yeses. And these things give me other questions as well. And these things give me a guideline to how much you know about your body and what things you have experienced. And based on that, I can expand upon that. And then also encourage you to show you what your body can do and have you do it to yourself. And like, not everybody wants to have sex with me. I get that. That's not the point. The point is that you can find pleasure within yourself by simply learning more about your body and different sensations that you can then tell your partner what you need. So how do you ask for what you want if you're in this situation? I'm not around for whatever reason. Honestly, I'm going to start with dating profiles. So when you're starting at that point, or even not dating profile, when you meet somebody, any of that, communication is the number 1 key. Be upfront, especially about the things you're worried about. If you're positive for HSV, or you're bisexual and you're worried that someone's going to judge you based off of that, it's a possibility. The thing is that you want to be able to get that out of the way up front and know immediately. Okay? By being that upfront in your profile, you can then get better quality matches. There are people that just swipe to swipe, but if they're actually reading what you want and they swipe, that means they're into it. They're down. Now, the image that you're presenting on the image ones like Tinder, make sure you have a good face shot in general, like an up-close face shot. Definitely one with a smile. If your up close does not have that, at least a 3/4 body shot, and something fun that you like to do, like what are your hobbies or activities. You can be in that photo, but definitely like give me another flavor of your character, as well as a super transparent and honest bio. It's the best. And then you get into the questions. Now, for me, this is whether it's on an app or in real life, whatever, it's really super important to get a few things out of the way, in my opinion. So I have several questions that I ask people before we even meet up. As I touched on a little bit earlier in the video, there are different aspects to what you want and figuring that out and having open communication, right? So starting that conversation for me comes immediately, because I've already been very upfront about what I'm looking for. Still, it surprises people, but I ask them the disease question, and that's just basically to check their intelligence about it and understanding on it. And then I have the hard no question. I tell them what my hard no's are, and the hard yes question. And again, these are nothing set in stone. These are literally a baseline for understanding. If somebody likes this particular thing, I can take that and expand upon that, right? And that, I mean, you all know. I mean, how many of you have been out on a date, but you weren't even sure if it was a date, and you're like, are we gonna make out? Are we gonna have sex? Like, you have no idea because nobody's talked about it. You both like each other. You may both want to be having sex. You may both want to not. I don't know. But if you communicate that, You know, it takes that air of pressure. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, that seems like a lot of pressure. It's not. It's actually the opposite of that. It relinquishes all that pressury shit that you should talk about before you're sexually active with somebody, and the precautions and all of those things, the things that are important to you and make you comfortable in your sexual encounters, are so important to discuss with anyone that might be your sexual partner. And I mean to any degree. A one night stand all the way through to your life partner, if you have one of those. That's why communication is so important. So how do you actually communicate that? Well, honestly, there's no right or wrong answer for that, because everybody is different. Your communication style is different. Your partner's listening styles are different. So it's really important to just open it up and say, hey, I'd like to talk about this. How can we do that? And just work through it together. Like, how are they best at receiving this kind of information? Maybe they like it during sex. Maybe they would like it at over dinner sometime, or everybody's totally different. But that being said, make sure that you are doing what you need to do for you, and that nobody is pressuring you out of that comfort zone. Because once that's gone, once the comfort is gone, resentment tends to build, and your pleasure is out the window at that point. Because, how are you supposed to relax, right? I also want to touch a little bit about kink, because people assume because I'm sex positive, this is my experience, by the way, that I'm kinky. And I'm not really what I would call kinky. I'm more like French vanilla. Which is very educated and refined vanilla. That being said, a little spanking, choking kind of action, sure. But I always ask that be requested for, because it's very triggering for a lot of people. So I'm trying to start at the base of things and build with the sexuality of what people want. And starting with that basic vanilla and just really nailing that. Because sometimes people go to fetishes or kinks because regular sex is just not cut for them. So I'd like to start out with that and revisit it, Another thing I want to say that's super important about kinks in general and fetishes is please try not to yuck other people's yum. It might not be a thing for you, but there's no reason to make others feel a certain kind of way about that. Because we all know in this society, and it's so amazing that we're moving towards a direction without labels. And hopefully there won't be gender and there won't be sexual orientation at some point. It's just people like other people, and however it works, it works. And even the dirtiest of fetishes that, and I say dirtiest because that's relative, the shameful ones, don't shame people for those things. There's hidden information in that. There's understanding to be had. That being said, I love to fulfill people's fantasies, but I can't necessarily fulfill everybody's fantasy. It would be great, but I'm also really into helping people discover what's right for them. So say that you and I are communicating and it turns out it's not right with us. I am totally open to being able to help you find the right kind of person, whether it's a service person to help you, a sex worker, a therapist, whatever you need, even if it's not me. Because exploring your sexuality brings back brings an air of confidence to a person. Oh, it's so great, and it's important for you to hold on to that pleasure and use it as a revolution, because it is, and you deserve it. Something that a lot of you asked me to discuss was jealousy. Yes, it exists in all ways, types of relationships, shapes, forms. I personally am not a jealous person about people or other lovers necessarily, but I am situationally jealous. If my partner or somebody I'm seeing goes and does something that I wanted to do with them, I'll feel that tinge. And I'd like to share with you a little bit about how I deal with it when it affects me, and explain to you only my opinion on where it comes from, and the aspects in which it creates resentment in a relationship, right? And how to hopefully keep from doing that. You've got good communication, you're like in the groove, you're doing your thing, and then all of a sudden your partner starts seeing somebody that's hotter than you, has more money than you, just something, anything. You automatically, because of our societal pressures, are going to do a comparison between you and that other person. That is valid and understandable. The difference is understanding that you are different from that person, and what your partner is seeking from you is different than what they're getting from that person. You can't give your partner what that person is giving them, and vice versa. You're two totally different people. So I encourage you to sit with jealousy when it happens, and really reflect on whether or not it's something you need to discuss with your partner. If you could just reflect for a moment and think about where it's coming from and call your own insecurities into question. And make sure that when you go to talk to your partner about your jealousy, you own your emotional aspects of it, and can even admit to them, like, hey, it's just me, I need to work on it. Or, hey, it would really help me if we could approach this in this way. You know, sometimes you need to adjust your relationship contract, and relationship contracts are similar to what everybody does, a marriage and whatnot. But in poly or whatever, in any relationship, you should have a discussion about your baseline information, and what that means. Because when you're open, what's cheating? What is any of those things, right? But there are rules. It's important to have some of that so that you can be on the same page, if you will. You know, these societal pressures that we go through, the relationship escalator, like, you know, you meet, you become exclusive, you get engaged, you get married, you have 2.5 kids, you know, grow old, white picket fence, retire, all that shit. And for a long time, queer people were fighting for the right to join that escalator without prejudice, right? And so now we're like, oh, we can be on the escalator too. Sometimes we don't want to be. And every relationship, again, it's your own to decide. There are no rules to what kind of relationship you can have. The only thing that matters is you and your partner's boundaries and understanding. It can be whatever you want it to be. There was also a little bit of information that people were asking, like, how are you handling interactions with COVID? And honestly, both my roommate and I have been very careful. I don't actually leave the house very much at all. But we have opened our circle. We're just very cautious about that. And it's been added to my set of questions of, like, what have you been doing during this? And how have you been taking care of yourself? But yeah, opening up to other people at this point is okay for me. And I'm still very careful. Other people, I understand if you're not ready yet. I get it. I totally get that. And that's you just have to respect those boundaries. Social distancing dates are hard because you want to touch that person. But they're a thing, and you can still have a connection, you know? So yeah, just be safe is my thing about that. Some people ask me how I identify, and I identify as a lesbian. However, I have since had to reconsider that label, because while I am a woman, I identify as a woman. So, and I tend to seek out women with an X or not. It's honestly, it's if you want what I'm offering and we're compatible, I'm down. Like, I obviously like cis hetero men. Nope, obviously not. But like even people who are transitioning, if what I'm giving is what you're looking for, down for it. And so my label as lesbian has been a little I mean, it's just a fucking label, right? Who cares? You know, I'm all for, like, my pronouns are she, her. And I am learning how to be much better about pronouns. It's something I've really been working on, particularly this year more than any other year, because I so support it and I find myself slipping up so much. And, I hate that. I'm working on it because I think it's so important and I love the freedom in that. And like I was saying before, like the thought of no longer having gender and no longer having sexual orientation is amazing and kind of exciting. So I'm all about that. So even though I identify as a lesbian, I would say probably more queer now than anything. Queer and open. I'm just open, you know? I'm open to shit. And that's part of my experience, you know? So yeah, I think that covers most of what I wanted to get to today. Obviously, I could go way in depth and do just videos on almost every single one of these. Please let me know down in the comments, subscribe, let me know what other subjects you'd like me to discuss on here. I have no problem doing that. I'm an open book. And if you have something to teach me, also open to that. Please do. Because I love it. I love that stuff. So until next time, see ya.